Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at. Welcome back to another Bible in the Backyard episode. And last week we started a theme about friendship. Sorry, I was losing words. And then we talked about how you don't just need to just go through a door. You can go through a roof or a window or a tunnel, all the things. This one is it's still friendship. It's still based in that. And I had a thought this week, and it was walk in the fire. Will you, or who do you have around you that will walk in the fire with you? And you find this story in the book of Daniel, and the book of Daniel is in the Old Testament. It's in the Old Testament. It's after Lamentations, Jeremiah. It's kind of close-ish to the back of the Old Testament. It's before Jonah. But here we see three men willing to walk in the fire. So it's going to be Daniel, the book of Daniel, chapter 3. And we're just going to have to read the whole chapter because that's just what we need. I will paraphrase some of this just because it repeats itself multiple times. Chapter 3, verse 1, it says, Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then all those people I just mentioned gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up, and they stood before the image that the king had set up. Verse 4, it says, Then a herald cried aloud, so basically a messenger, cried aloud, To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So basically, any 6 of those and more music, they have to fall down and worship this idol, this golden idol. And whoso falleth not down, in verse 6, in worship in the same hour shall be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard all the sounds of all the music, they fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Sorry. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. Okay, so the Jews worship God. Okay, the Jews do not worship different idols because back in Moses in the 10 Commandments it says, Thou shalt have no other gods before me, and thou shalt not worship any graven image. Or have any graven image, or etc. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man shall hear the sound of all the music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he shall be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee, They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Okay, I want to pause just for a second. These men have been worshiping their own god for as long as they've been working for the king for Babylon. And it was in Daniel chapter 1 that basically Daniel and them, they took a stand. They're like, let us eat our own food. Let us eat our own type of diet. That is the Hebrew diet. Let us worship the thing, and we'll see what goes on. We'll see. Choose. And they were better. They were better, and then they had a spirit about them that the king wanted, so that the king wanted them to be in charge. The king wanted them to be, because they worked well, and they did things well, but they also were given that spirit and that grace by God. So they already weren't really following. They were following, but they weren't really following what the king had proclaimed for them to worship. So this king had set up an idol of himself. Could have been of himself. Could have been something different, because he wanted the glory. And these men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he had these men that were Jews over different lands, over armies, over just how the systems were run. They worked and they were shown in good spirit. However, they still were worshiping their God. They weren't going to worship an idol, especially a golden image. They were worshiping their God, the one and only God. So, back to the story. Verse 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do ye not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Wind. Now, if ye be ready, at what time ye hear the sounds of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast in the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is God? Who is that God that shall deliver you out of mine hands? The next two verses, are where they take the stand. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this manner. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us out from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. Next three verses, 16, 17, 18. But if not, be it known unto thee, unto you, O king, we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. They stuck to their guns. They weren't wavering. They weren't going to be like, no, I'm not going to just do it just to appease you either. I'm not going to do that. That's not my morals. That's not my beliefs. That's not a part of who I am. I'm not going to just go along with it because you say so. This is what I believe. Verse 19. Then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, in the form of his visage, was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it won't be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind them together and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Okay. This fire is as hot as it could possibly get. Even hotter. They were bound. They weren't going anywhere. There was no escaping it. Wait for it. These men were bound in their coats, their hosens, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up. So the guards that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It slew the guards that were following the king's orders, but not Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. But wait, there's more. Verse 24. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was stoned, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Okay. Then Nebuchadnezzar came to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace in verse 26, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth from of the midst of the fire. The princes, governors, captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose body the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their heads singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of the fire had passed on them. Okay, we've all been to a... Hey, Dawson! Is that Daddy's truck?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. You seeing what I'm doing?
I need cover.
You need color? In a minute, I'll give you color, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we've all been near fire. Campfire. Okay, you go back to the cabin, you go back to your house, whatnot. You smell it on your clothes, you smell it in your hair. Like, it's a thing. It's always a thing. There was not a smell, there was not a hair singe, their coats weren't burnt or dusted or black or anything. It was just them, their clothes, they weren't harmed. They were not harmed. And that goes back to verse 18, where it says, O king, we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. They stuck to their guns, and God praised them for it. He protected them for that. Then Nebuchadnezzar, it's all clean? Okay. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had sent his angel and sent his servant that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded not their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own. read that verse again. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, verse 28, said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Verse 29, it says, Therefore I make a decree, slam the gavel down, that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill. Because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. The king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the provinces of Babylon. Okay, that was a lot, and I understand. I got a question. Who has these friends? Who has them? I mean, really, who has these friends that'll stick to their guns and go in the fire? Be like, okay. I mean, come on. Who has fire friends? The ones who are immovable and fierce. The ones who stick to their guns and their beliefs no matter what lies in their way. The ones who you know turn to God in times of struggle. The ones that still praise Him in the midst of the sick. If the ship is sinking, there we go. The fire is almost to you, but they're like, hey, let's go back in. Let's go get some more people. Those are fire friends. But listen, these fire friends are not charged by emotion. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego weren't charged by emotion. They were charged by their belief system. They were charged by their morals. They were charged by who they were in God. They weren't in, they're not, you can't move them because they knew who they were and they knew exactly what to do. These people are steady. They make their choices based on beliefs and can back it up with a history. These friends are hard to come by. They aren't easy to keep either. But I got another question for you. Are you willing to walk in the fire for them? Are they willing to walk in the fire for you? Be a fire friend.